Mr. Deputy Speaker, I declare my interest in my involvement in the cooperative sector for more than 2 decades. Specifically, I'm the CEO of NTUC FairPrice Cooperative and was previously the chairman of the Singapore National Cooperatives Federation. Cooperatives make substantial contributions to our social goals, especially when the economic environments get challenging. We take our bearing from our social mission to benefit the members, communities, and the societies that we operate in. In 2012, the United Nations General Assembly declared that year, 2012, as the International Year of Cooperatives, highlighting the important role of cooperatives to social economic development, particularly their impact on poverty reduction, employment generation, and social integration. Many of my colleagues had participated and contributed actively at the public consultation period in the first half of 2017. The Registry of Cooperative Societies has taken into consideration most of the feedback given and incorporated these in the Cooperative Societies Amendment Bill that is being debated in Parliament today. So overall, I welcome the proposed legislative amendments that will further protect members' interests through raising governance standards of credit co-ops, facilitating their operations, and enhancing regulatory powers. However, I would like to raise some remaining concerns. First, the registrar's enhanced powers, and these are in Section 9A, 16BB, 59A, 83, 94, and 94A. Taken together, I recognize that the intention of the Ministry is to better protect members' interests when the Committee of Management is not performing its duties properly, or when there has been misconduct and mismanagement. However, I fear this intention may lead us to over-regulate. For example, the amendments in Section 83 empower the registrar to issue an order to wind up a cooperative if the registrar is satisfied that the co-op has breached any of its terms and conditions of registration, varied or added under Section 9A. Section 9A itself allows the registrar to modify the terms and conditions of registration. Hence, technically, the registrar will be given wide-ranging powers to wind up any co-op by modifying their terms and conditions of registration. Section 59A also empowers the registrar to appoint up to 2 individuals to serve in the co-op's Committee of Management. I assume such appointments will only be done in exceptional cases and in consultation with the co-op concerned, whose consent should not be unreasonably withheld. I'm raising this point to ensure that the independence of cooperatives is not compromised when such powers are conferred to the registrar. It would be a sad situation if a co-op is wound up against the wishes of its members. In Section 59, subsection 6, the term manager has been replaced by Chief Executive Officer. The duties of the Secretary or Treasurer should not be delegated only to the CEO. Instead, this could also be delegated to the CFO or the Board Secretary or the equivalent. The proposed flexibility in the delegation of duties is to reduce the admin load on the CEO. I hope the Ministry will consider this. In Section 57, subsection 3, there's no proposed change on voting mechanism in the case of election or removal of officers, and so by secret ballot. However, I propose that this be aligned to the Companies Act, which allows voting by show of hands. Although I know it is possible for co-ops to seek exemption from the registrar for a certain period of time, as is currently practiced, I think this is administratively cumbersome to monitor and to keep track. In Section 72, subsection 1, on distribution of net surplus, I note that there are no changes proposed. I believe that currently co-ops may only declare and pay dividends, patronage refund, and honoraria, collectively referred to as distributions, only from the net surplus, if any, of the preceding financial year. So surpluses from other previous financial years, whether it is from accumulated surplus, retained earnings, or the equivalent, they cannot be used for distribution. I believe it will be useful for the Ministry to consider allowing a cooperative to pay dividends out of its accumulated net surplus, if there is no surplus for that year in which the dividends is declared. I say this because this is consistent with the object of promoting the economic interests of its members, and it is also consistent with the Companies Act requirement. Let me explain why this change is proposed. In the case of the NTUC group of cooperatives, they had historically been conservative in its dividend distributions, resulting in an accumulation of net surpluses from past years. As is, 10% of share capital is the maximum allowable under the Corp Societies Act to be declared as dividends. Secondly, there could be a possibility of their net surplus in any year being negatively affected by accounting mark-to-market loss for financial investments that were made, although operationally the results from core business is healthy and making a profit. Under the current legislation, the cooperative would not be able to declare a dividend, even though their financials remain sound. By way of comparison, Section 403 of the Companies Act states that no dividend shall be payable to shareholders of any companies except our profits. And the definition of profits in the current practice for companies, they include accumulated surpluses. I note that both the Companies Act and the Corp Societies Act of 2009, they do not specify whether dividends can be declared from accumulated surplus, even if there is no surplus for the current year. I've also asked the Singapore National Cooperatives Federation, and they have told me that based on the recent 3 years audited accounts, there were 9 loss-making co-ops with positive reserves. That is, their dividends could have been drawn down from reserves, and that there were 20 profitable co-ops that declared dividends of lower than 10%, which is the maximum allowable under the Corp Societies Act. All boards have fiduciary duties to perform, and I think we should not be overly prescriptive in this regard. Where they have reasons to make such a recommendation, the members of the Corp also have a say in approving or rejecting such a recommendation. And where there are grounds for the Registrar of Societies to act against the Corp or its board, I believe with the proposed changes, the Registrar is empowered to do so. All things considered, and for the reasons stated above, I hope the Ministry can consider permitting drawdown from the reserves for dividend payments and to incorporate this change in this amendment bill. Now, with these clarifications and proposed change, I support the amendments to the bill. Thank you.